What's going on, freight brokers? This is Lewis from Freight Broker Mentor and Freight Skills. And in this video, we are going to cover a really important process that I hope you have to follow for yourself, right? So you finally convinced that shipper to give you that load. You've been calling them all week. You've been following up with emails, and they finally said, you are the one that's going to be moving this load. Now, it's really exciting, but when you're excited about anything, it's really easy to skip steps and make mistakes. And it's my job here at this channel to make sure that you don't make any mistakes that can cost you money, right? Because in logistics, and especially freight, it's a very detail-oriented process and position that you're in. Anything that you do can have really disastrous consequences down the line, and the consequences usually come in the form of financial punishment, right? And that means racking up charges with carriers, having fines levied against you for improper documentation or not following regulations, things like that. So in this video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna give you a 5-step checklist that you need to go through and make sure that you do before every single load. And when you do this, when you complete these 5 steps, not only will you have more confidence to go to your shippers and ask for more work, but you will eliminate all of those costly mistakes that a lot of inexperienced and beginner brokers tend to fall into. This is going to be helpful for you if you are just starting freight brokering, if you're just starting as an agent, or if you hired some new agents. You could direct them to this video so that they can have an idea of exactly what to do, what the process looks like from booking a load, receiving it from your customer, and booking it with your carrier. So let's get right into step 1. So the first thing that you need to do when you receive this load from the customer is first verify all of the information that you discussed in writing. And so what does verify mean, right? Because verify can mean a few different things depending on who's asking the question. When you receive a load from a customer, it's going to come in the form of a PO, a phone call, or an email. The most professional companies and a majority of companies in general are going to send you something called a PO, and this is going to be a purchase order. What it basically is going to have is all of the information of the load that was discussed in a hard copy, paper, PDF format for you to sign off of and agree, right? Because once they give you their terms, once you start working and once you actually complete the transaction, you are agreeing to whatever terms they set forth. So the first thing that you have to do is make sure that those terms are in your favor and aren't any different from what you've already discussed previously. So what does this look like? Generally, when you're verifying information, the first thing that you always want to look at is the rate. Is the rate that the shipper is giving you the same rate that you discussed with them over the phone, or is it the same rate that you gave them over email? You want to make sure that this matches, because if it doesn't and you move the load, you're not going to have any recourse against them to go and collect those funds that you thought you were originally going to get. That can cause you to overpay for a load or underpay for a load, probably overpay, and then it's going to cost you money to the carrier. And it'll wind up being a losing transaction. The next thing that you're going to want to verify with your shipper is the shipping and delivery locations. Sometimes things happen in logistics. A shipper will receive an order from a customer, they'll send it to you, and then they might receive something called a change order where the location that it was going to has been changed. It's going to a completely different location that may be closer or much farther away from the original destination. So you want to make sure that those locations that are in the original quote that you provided are what's being sent to you in that first order, right? And those are the major points that you want to make sure with your shipper. There's also things like the weight, the class, the pallet count, all of those things. And to help you out, actually, what I have is a checklist that will give you all of those information points that you want to have in front of you when you are working a load. You can download that in the description below. Just go to the page, enter your email, and I'll send it over to you personally. So after we verified all of that information with our shipper, the person who's actually giving us the load, the next step is going to be verifying the load information with the pickup and delivery locations. Now, this step is usually overlooked by even some of the most experienced brokers, and I'm not really sure why. This is a standard procedure in my brokerage. Whenever we receive a load, the first 2 phone calls we make are to the shipper and the receiver. And you're going to want to make a note to do this on every single load that you move for the rest of your life. When we call the shipper, what we're doing is we're verifying their pickup instructions. What time can you pick up from? What are your procedures? Do you require a pickup number, or do you need paperwork in hand to the driver? Are there any days that you don't load? Maybe we'll give them the pickup number we were given and we'll ask them, is this load available? Because sometimes scheduling doesn't communicate well. We'll verify all that information beforehand to avoid the potential of a truck order not used. We don't want to send a carrier in to pick up a load when it's not even ready. Right? That's what causes problems. It causes bad blood with carriers, and it makes the shipper work a lot harder when our job is to make sure that they are working less. Our next call to the receiver is making sure that they don't have any special instructions. Maybe they require appointments or things like that. We want to verify that we have everything in a row so that we know exactly what we're getting into when we're delivering the load. Right? So we'll call them up and we'll say, we have this load we're delivering next week. Do you have any special pickup hours? Are you by appointment only? Let us know what those directions are. And then they'll give them to us, and we'll avoid showing up to a delivery location early, or maybe a location that doesn't have enough room and causes a lot bigger problems with driver layover or reconsignment and things like that. So those first 2 calls that you want to make are going to be to the shipper and the receiver. And this is before you even start speaking with carriers about covering this load. Now, before we go on to number 3, if this video is helping you so far, make sure you hit that like and follow button so that you don't miss out on any more videos like this. We post on a weekly basis, and I send out occasional weekly emails. If you're interested in those, just head down to the description below and there is a link to sign up to our email list. So now we are on to step 3, the third thing that you must do before you start moving the load, and that is speak to a carrier about moving it, right? A lot of people tend to get in the habit of not dotting their I's and crossing their T's when it comes to covering loads, and that is where brokers make the most mistakes. It's very easy to fall victim to a scam in this industry. There's a number of scams. I'll cover all of them in another video. It could be double brokering, it could be co-brokering without your knowledge, it could be identity theft. But you always want to make sure that you speak with a carrier that is interested in moving your load on the phone. Right? It's very important to have this physical conversation with them because that creates a connection and at least some degree of trust that you want to have with your carriers. If your carriers don't trust you and you don't trust them, then there's no basis for giving them any orders, right? And there's no basis for them to do anything for you, right? You're not going to get good rates with them. You're not going to get good availability. They're not going to give you accurate capacity projections, nothing like that. You want to be speaking with the carrier who's moving your load on the phone every single time. You're asking them things like, how long have you been in service? Have you done this lane before? Are you familiar with this area? How many trucks do you have? What's your MC number? You want to know all of these answers to questions, which will carry you into step 4, which will be verifying everything that the carrier told you. Right? You see, most of these steps is verifying information that we already have. It's really important to make sure that you have all of this stuff in order while you're booking these loads. Okay, so step 4 is going to be verifying everything that the carrier told you as true. You do not want to send a carrier a rate confirmation only to find out when you look them up on SaferSys that they're completely out of service or they are not running the amount of trucks that they said. Maybe they don't service the areas that they told you they do and this is a scam, right? So you always want to make sure that your next step after you speak with a carrier is verifying as many points of information that you can. When we do this, like in practice, like actually every single day when we get our load and we get a load covered, we will look at the SaferSys profile of the carrier. We'll verify, is that phone number matching? Can we find the name of the person we spoke to on a website? What state are they based out of? Does this match what they told us? Is the MC number right? Is it in service? What's their out of service record? We want to know all of these things because carriers can very easily lie to you on the phone, just like some brokers will lie to carriers, right? It goes both ways. We want to make sure everyone's on the same page, and we do that by trusting the carriers on the phone, but verifying what they say before we take that next step. And that brings us to step number 5, which is going to be verifying all of the information with the carriers in writing. This comes in the form of 2 really important documents that you should have, and one is going to be a carrier packet. This is a contract between you and the carrier to make sure payment terms are set, expectations are set, and you're both on the same page when it comes to your business relationship. The second is going to be your rate confirmation. Now, the rate confirmation is the broker's form of a PO. It outlines all of the terms of your load, including the origin, destination, weight, commodity, date, and more importantly, the rate. The rate that you agreed to move with the carrier. Before you send any addresses to carriers, you want to make sure both of these documents are returned back to you signed. And you can expect to have to be a little bit of a pest to get these documents back. In my experience, for the last 10-15 years, we've had very rare occurrences where we just send off a document and it comes back signed within the next 10 minutes. Usually you have to make a few follow-up calls, but it's understandable. Carriers have a very, very busy job. It's very demanding, and they cannot email and drive. So unless they have a dispatcher helping them, it's gonna be very difficult for them to just send you back those documents really quickly. Also, a lot of them like to read them and understand what they're getting into, which is also fair game. So a lot of them are gonna take their time to do that. Just make sure before you move forward with anything, everything you have matches up. After we verified everything with the shipper in writing, we mirror that to our carrier agreement, and we should be able to look at both of them and match up each point. Where it's picking up, where it's delivering, the delivery times that we confirmed with the shipper, the receiving times we confirmed with the consignee, and the rate that we're billing our customer versus the rate that we're paying to our carrier, which hopefully has a little bit of room in the middle for you to make a little bit of a profit. Anywhere between 10 and 20% can be expected on a regular, on average load for a broker. But there are some loads where you might make up to 30% or 40% depending on the type of customer you have and the rates that they have. Now, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I really hope that you took note of these 5 crucial steps that you need to complete before you move any load for a customer. And now, just to do a quick recap, number 1 is going to be verifying all of the load information with your customer in writing. Number 2 is going to be calling that shipper and receiver. Make sure you know when they have hours, when they are able to load your truck, and make sure that the load is even ready for the date that your customer gave you to pick up the load in the first place. Number 3 is going to be interviewing your carriers on the phone. Do not tender a load to a carrier without establishing some sort of a phone relationship with them. Number 4 is going to be verifying that carrier information online via SafeAssist, their website, or any of those other public sources that are very easy to find. And number 5 is going to be getting that information confirmed back from your carrier in writing with your rate confirmation and your carrier packet. This is really crucial. I can't stress enough how important it is to get these documents back, because if something goes wrong with a load, you need to have a paper trail to show that you did your due diligence for your shipper. Otherwise, you can wind up in some hot legal water, and I don't want that for any of you. So I hope this video helped. If it did, once again, make sure you go and hit that like button. Give me a follow at Freight Broker Mentor. This channel, we post every week, and I also send out emails on a weekly basis that are gonna help you with rates, getting shippers, finding carriers, growing your network, all of that exciting stuff. And if you're interested in getting a little bit more closer to me, I do have a Facebook group where I hang out all day. It's called the Freight Broker Network. That link is also down below in the description. And what I want you to do is head over there right now and just click the join button. Invite yourself in. I'll personally let you in, and that's where me and all my broker friends hang out. We give advice, we answer questions, we try to cover some loads together, and we just talk everything brokering. And I really hope to see you inside, but until the next video, I will see you soon.